Welcome back to the Fundamentals Radio Show. I'm Dave Pelton. Sitting across from me, as always, is Dr. Jan Veinot. Fundamentals Radio Show, dealing with the fundamental issues of life one day at a time. Today we're talking about difficulties in relationships. And, I don't know why this is such a big deal. All my relationships are perfect. What's so difficult about relationships?
Well, I think all of our listeners will know what it's like to have a difficult relationships. What I don't think that people understand is a lot of times divorcing or breaking up won't help because those difficulties get repeated in relationship after relationship after relationship. Because what we're doing is usually bringing our own issues that we have into those relationships and not being aware of that. And it causes difficulties.
So again, of course, I don't understand this personally because I don't have any issues. But let's say I did have some issues, maybe that I brought into relationships over the years. You're saying that we see some patterns in our own lives because we are maybe looking at other people and thinking about what's wrong with other people, but we're not necessarily looking at ourselves and what are we bringing into the table? What are we bringing into the relationship? What are we repeating time and time again?
And there's thousands of books in bookstores about relationships, how to have better relationships, communication style, closeness, differences between men and women. There's a lot but underlying all of the issue, underlying it, one big area aspect of relationships is how we attach to other people. And how we attach to other people was developed when we were in infancy.
Oh, dear. Back. We're going.
Back.
We have to go all the way back to infancy. Now, explain this a little bit to me, because every time we talk about a topic that goes back to infancy or goes back to the first year or two of our lives, the first thing I think about, well, is it too late? Does that mean it's too late to do anything about it because I didn't have any choice of what happened when I was 1 year old?
Right. And it is. In relationships, all relationships, whether the relationship be with between a man and a woman, between your mother and, you, between your siblings, between your best friends, work relationships, all relationships have this underlying theme of attachment. You get attached to other people. It's a natural part. And our attachment style, what we call it, our attachment style, was developed from 0 to 2 when we were attaching to our mother or caregiver. And that bond, the first bond, does play out for the rest of our lives. And the best we can do is be aware of, how that attachment style and how those issues, what they are, and be aware of how we bring them into relationships.
So if we are aware of it, then what? Let's say we do become a little more self-aware and we do get a little self-knowledge as we get older, which we all hope we do get some self-knowledge as we get older. What do we do about it? What if we do recognize some patterns and some relationships don't work out and we think, well, gosh, this seems to happen. This happened when I was in high school. This happened when I was in college. This happened in my marriage. It happened, in the second marriage, or it happened in a significant
I've gotten
relationship.
feedback from my parents. The same thing. I don't listen. I've heard it a number of times. Or everybody else does this. It's not me. It's everybody else. One of the things I ask people all the time, and they a lot of times don't have an answer for it, is I ask people in a difficult relationship, whether it be two friends that are fighting, whether it be siblings that are not speaking to each other, whether it be a couple that are fighting, or a divorce happened, or relationships breaking up in any way, I always ask the person, what ownership did you have in the demise of that relationship?
I'm sure they love to hear that, right?
Because one thing people don't understand or aren't aware of, every single human being is difficult to love. They have things about them that are difficult to love. In
addition, hopefully, to a lot of things that are easier to love. I mean, it's not right. But from what you're saying, though, is that we have to recognize that even though we all think we're perfect at some point or another, we are not, and we do need to somehow gain that self-knowledge as we move through these relationships.
Yeah, and what the lay people don't know, what a lot of people who they struggle in relationships and say, why do I keep repeating the same pattern? You know, why can't I have a successful relationship? Why am I constantly at the base of this is attachment and an attachment style. If you can identify what style of attachment that you have, you'll know how it plays out in relationships, and you can be more aware of it.
So I'm curious about that. How do we? I take it there are a few styles.
Four.
There's four different attachment styles. What are they? How do we recognize them?
Well, there's the ultimate is secure. I don't know who has that. But
Probably not me.
Secure attachment style. So there are people who have successful relationships for 60 years, and it may be that two people had a secure, because each person brings in an attachment style. You might have two people that had a secure attachment style, and they lived 60 years and had a great relationship.
And maybe that's some of these long marriages we see where they seem just as much in love, after 50 years of marriages as they did the day they met.
Right. But you also see the 60-year relationships that stuck together and tortured each other every single day,
Yeah.
And it might have been that those two attachment styles just fed off each other for 60 years.
Yeah.
Or, of course, they all could have stayed together for great sex. Who knows?
Right. Well, and then, okay, so if they're secure, then that's one attachment style. What are the other ones?
So other ones that we're going to be talking about later in the show are reluctant or kind of ambivalent or reluctant kind of attachment style. There's also disorganized attachment style and dismissive attachment style. And they all come from, how two things. They come from how the parent and the child bonded, attached when they were an infant, and also parents unfortunately pass down their own attachment issues to their children. So it's generational in effect.
So recognizing an attachment style that we have is part of the solution, or are you saying that's the whole solution?
Oh no, it's recognize my own attachment style, but you've got two people in a relationship. So you could be well aware of, the issues that you have in relationships. But if the other person it takes two people. So relationships are difficult. And it's and this is just one reason. We the self-help books will tell you, there's communication styles, everything. But really, what people don't know is this whole issue of attachment is really, really an important piece of successful versus unsuccessful relationships.
So the topic today is difficulties in relationships. How much of this topic how much of a difficulty in a relationship is connected to the way that we attach to other people versus how much is other things and other factors in life?
I'm going to say that I'm probably willing to estimate that attachment styles, because once you know your attachment style and once you understand it and what it does, it influences the way you communicate, the way you behave in relationships. It influences all the other things that the self-help books have out there. Okay.
So how come, again, why is it then that self-help books aren't purely focused on this? Well, it's because there are other things that are valid to focus on. I imagine that's part of the answer. But why not just focus on this?
Oh, because I don't know. I don't know. I don't think it's something that a lot of people know about. It's just not a popular talk. It's not it's not out there.
And it sounds to me, I mean, I'm just thinking about it, it sounds like if we're trying to reach back to something that happened that young in our lives, that it would be a really hard thing, a really difficult thing to pinpoint.
Actually, it actually isn't that difficult. We're going to be talking about that later in the show, and we want to hear from listeners about the kinds of issues that they're having, and we can, continue and delve more into this.
Yeah, it is obviously something that I don't think anybody out there has not had a difficult relationship at one point or another. So clearly, there's going to be a lot of opinions and thoughts about this. We would love to hear your thoughts and opinions. Please call us at the Fundamental Radio Show, 1-800-555-1212. We will be right back.